కొంచెం కింద తీసుకుంటారా? సరిపోతుంది. థ్యాంక్ యూ. जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, जय यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना, यशोदा यमुना तीरा वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी, जय राधा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा नित्य गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Hare Krishna. So today we have with us His Grace Keshva Nimai Prabhu. Hare Bol. So brief introduction of Prabhuji. Prabhuji has done his BTech from NIT Warangal and then MTech from IISc Bangalore. Subsequently, he worked in R&D department of TVS Motors, and after that he joined in 2009 in ISKCON camp Kunji Behari Temple, and then to NVCC. During his services in temple, he served majorly in kitchen. Whenever there used to be big festivals and regular cooking also, he has cooked for thousands and thousands of people and making systems in kitchen, measuring the vessels, how many liters for how many people and everything. On those systems, he is very much instrumental in that and served in Gurukul as a teacher and currently serving as a teacher in BVRV, Bhaktivedanta Raja Vidyalaya. In between, he was helping in preaching in IIT Tirupati also, Kirti Gopalpur and others. And major contribution of Prabhuji is in kitchen. Very, very amazing cook and exact quality for thousands of people. So whenever we go to NVCC, when we take that camp, Prashadam and everything, so we can remember Prabhuji's hand behind that. So I'd like to welcome Prabhuji to ISKCON Hyderabad temple by loudly chanting 3 times, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mahaprabhu Chaitanya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakುಮಾರಾಯ Govindaya Namo Namaha. Maybe I think Shloka you can. दूसरे से. Okay, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto. Vidha bhutam aveksheta, vidha bhutam aveksheta, tathaivantaramavayoh, yatha purushamaatmanam, ekamadarša chakshushoh, vidha bhutam aveksheta, tathaivantaramavayoh. Please read. Yatha purushamaatmanam ekamadarša chakshusho bhutam aveksheta tathaivantaramavayoh. Apurushamaatmanam ekamadarša chakshusho ekamadarša chakshusho tathaivantaramavayoh. Yatha purushatmanam ekamadarša chakshusho. Purport is very big. So I'll read one para and then we'll continue. As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and non different, whereas others actually see two bodies. So, in our material condition, in which the living being is affected and yet not affected, there is a difference between God and the living entity. Being affected by conditioning of matter, Mayavadi philosophers cannot see the difference between the Supreme Lord and the living entity. When the sun is reflected in a pot of water, the sun knows that there is no difference between himself and the reflected sun in the water. Those in ignorance, however, perceive that there are many small suns reflected in each and every pot. As far as brilliance is concerned, there is brilliance both in the original sun and in the reflections. But the reflections are small, whereas the original sun is very large. Vaishnava philosophers conclude that the living entity is simply a small sample of original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Qualitatively, God and the living entities are one, but quantitatively, the living entities are small fragments of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we offer our prayers and then we'll continue. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitham Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganalalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Vimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. I am grateful to all of you. I seek blessings and prayers of Sri Sanandamaya Prabhu and all the Vaishnavas to share something on the exalted topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are reading from 4th canto and 28th chapter. Puranjan becomes woman in next life. So text 63. Technical issues continue in the material world. So problem I think it's coming. No, I have notes here. So anyway. So in this verse, so we are seeing the chapter of Puranjan. It's a long story coming from few chapters from 4th canto, 25th chapter almost. This is the 28th chapter where we are seeing. No problem. Let it be. What? Well, let it be. If notes is there, then they can correlate. Purport I will show. Yeah, pen drive. Pen drive है क्या आपके पास? So, in the 25th chapter, where Narada Muni approached Prachini Barhishat and asked, and he was inquiring. So, when he met Prachini Barhishat, so he himself asked a question. Generally, when sadhus visit, they inquire about spiritual subject matters. So he also asked a question, how we are entangled, especially I am entangled in path of karma. Prachin Barishat mentioning that he is entangled in path of karma. So how can I be liberated from this karma and liberated from the suffering of this material world? So that's how the whole series starts. That's where the whole series starts. So leave it, leave it. It's unable to recognize. Leave it. So anyway, so that's how the whole narration starts. That he asked Narada Muni, "How can I be liberated from this path of karma?" And then Narada Muni started an allegorical story in 25th chapter. So that's how it's going on 26, 27, 28. Now, next chapter also, till this chapter, we are almost in the last verses. 65 is the last verse, we are in 63. So then still, though Narada Muni was explaining in a very cryptic way, in an allegorical way, you can open the purport when I read that. So, so Narada Muni was explaining in a very cryptic way, in a very allegorical way. He was listening, but after this chapter, still he was unable to grasp the message. What is actually Narada Muni saying? By saying, he mentioned, he brought out the character of Puranjan, and there is a city, and there are so many things he mentions, so much analogies, and so many things he mentions in chapter by chapter. So after this chapter again, Prajin Varshit could not grasp the message. Then he asked, I didn't. This is a sincere student. Prajin Varshit we can learn. If we don't understand, then we inquire. My dear sir, I could not understand anything. I didn't understood anything from your class. Please explain what your analogy. So then 29th chapter continues the explanation of Narada Muni. So here we are in 28th chapter. Is almost concluding his analogy, allegorical story. That here, where a character called Puranjan becomes, he was attached to his wife. Then he becomes a woman in next life as a Vaidarbhi, and you are all hearing the wonderful story, fascinating story. So now Vaidarbhi had a husband, Malayadhvaj. He passed his body. He passed away. Now, when he passed away, she was lamenting at deathbed. So Vaidarbhi is lamenting so much. Then Avignata, the Supreme Lord himself, comes as a Brahmana and he is instructing Vaidarbhi. So here we can see that when there is lamentation, we need spiritual knowledge. We see so many examples in our scriptures also. The Bhagavad Gita starts with that Arjuna is in complete lamentation and disappointment and depression. So Krishna gave the spiritual knowledge. Because lamentation, fearfulness, these are all at a mental level and mode of ignorance. And to enlighten one, we need knowledge, which is mode of goodness and beyond. So the spiritual knowledge awakens one to mode of goodness and beyond. So that's why it's always, we see in scriptures also, in many examples also, in Srimad Bhagavatam also, even in the case of Hiranyaksha pastime, when he dies, Hiranyakashipu himself gives spiritual knowledge to the lamenting wives. And we see in the case of Chitraketu and his pastime, where his son died. And then again, Narada Muni, Angira Muni and Narada Muni comes, and especially there also a lot of philosophical understanding and spiritual subject matters were discussed to bring out one from that lamentation stage. So that's why here we see that even the Supreme Lord himself comes to Vaidarbhi and he was enlightening her. Please give up lamentation. So that is the context of the allegorical story we are in. So he is explaining the spiritual knowledge here to Vaidarbi, Avignata, the Supreme Lord Himself. So we are seeing these around 12, 15 verses are there. Last verse, 62 verse, Lord is saying that there is no difference between you and me. That's what is mentioned in 62 verse, qualitative oneness. But here in 63 is saying, but still there is difference, as Prabhupada mentioning in translation, that last there is a difference between God and living entity. Right? Even in conditioned stage also, in liberated stage also. In both stages, there is a difference between God and living entity. That's why Prabhupada is bringing out the Mayavadi philosophy, where they say that they always think that there is no difference at all between Supreme Lord and living entities. So I took the title from His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu that we are not gods, but we are gods. We are not gods means we are not gods, Gods. We are gods, there is apostrophe S. God apostrophe S. We are gods means we belong to God. We belong to God. We are not gods means we are not at all equal to God, but we are gods apostrophe S means we belong to God. Mama evamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. So we are amsha of the Lord always, either in the conditioned stage or the liberated stage. So that's always difference is there. Prabhupada mentions in his purport, we will see the purport. I'll just summarize now. He mentions about 5 differences basically in this purport, about difference between Supreme Lord and Jiva. In all scriptures also we see that there are Bheda Vakyas and Abheda Vakyas. In Vedas especially, this terminology, Bheda Vakyas means there is a difference between living entity and Supreme Lord. Bheda Vakyas. And there are Abheda Vakyas also in scriptures, that Aham Brahmasmi. Of course, this Pancha Mahavakyas exclusively highlighted by Shankaracharya, that there is no mention of Mahavakyas term in any Vedic scriptures, but he highlighted, of course we know the purpose of Shankaracharya. He brought out these 5 Mahavakyas, but there is no kind of Mahavakyas or Laghuvakyas, any kind of terminology, but it's Bheda and Abheda Vakyas are always there. There is a difference and there is a simultaneously oneness. That's what our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. So that's what propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we are following the great tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. So there is always a simultaneous oneness. That's what Prabhupada is mentioning here in this purport also. There is a 62 verses are saying that it's qualitative oneness and there is quantitative difference. So Prabhupada bringing out 5 differences. First one is mentioning about he never forgets his identity, Supreme Lord, but living entity is prone to forgetfulness. Wherein 4th chapter also Arjuna asked the question, Aparam bhavato janma, param janma vivashvataha. I see you here, born with me, but you are saying that you spoke to son Vivashwan. How do I understand? Then Krishna says, Bahuni me viditani janmani tavacha Arjuna. So, but there is we both took different, many births, but you have changing the body, but I don't change. I don't change my body. So that's how there is a difference between, he never forgets his identity, but we are all prone to forgetfulness, being a marginal energy of the Lord. So that's one difference he mainly mentions. And then second point he mentions, alipta. The Supreme Lord is never contaminated by Maya, but we are lipta, contaminated. And there is no, third one he mentions, there is no difference between body and soul of the Lord. His identity, his body and soul, there is no, he is Sachidananda Swarupa, inside and outside. But we have, in conditioned stage, we have difference. I have a body, I have gross and subtle body, caught up, the soul is caught up in these 2 bodies. There is a difference. And Supreme Lord does not have any designations of material designations. But we have so many designations. We are in human body, we are in different species of life, animal body, animal species, tree species, so many species of life we are been to, and we have all these designations. And last, he mentions that Supreme Lord is present in everyone's body. He is ever expanded everywhere. Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Sarvakshetreshu Bharata, 13th chapter, where he says, I am there in everyone's body as a Paramatma, but the living entity cannot be expanded to all the bodies. He is limited to particular body. That's the main differences he brings out. Of course, these are all mainly related to the conditioned stage, especially. But can there be non-difference when we are liberated? No. Prabhupada mentions about these qualities, he mentions, bring out the point of qualities. How Supreme Lord is having in full 64 qualities in his Paripurna, Sampurna uh, avatar as Sri Krishna, he has 64 qualities, 100%. So Vishnu Tattva has 93%, 60 qualities, and Lord Shiva has 84%, 54 qualities, and a living entity can max go up to 50 qualities, 78%. That's what Prabhupada brings out. Even in liberatory stage also, there will be difference between living entity and Supreme Lord. So at any stage, either in conditioned stage or liberated stage, the Supreme Lord and living entities are always different. That's needs to we need to understand. So we'll just read the purport now. How Prabhupada is bringing out these points. The Supreme Lord is full, second para. The Supreme Lord is full, powerful and opulent. In the previous verse, the Lord says, my dear friend, you and I are non-different. So as we discussed, that 62nd verse is saying that qualitatively we are same. This non-difference refers to qualitative oneness. For it was not necessary for Paramatma, the Supreme Personality, to remind the conditioned soul that he is not one in quantity. The self-realized soul never thinks that he and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one in every respect. So just like, let us suppose Prime Minister addressing the country, when he says, we are all Indians. Yeah, we are all Indians, right? Qualitatively, we are Indians. And we are all Indians. But do we think we are the same? Is there any difference between Prime Minister and a citizen? Yeah, there is a lot of difference. There is a great difference. He has post, position, his authority. He can, by flick of finger, he can do many things. Right? But a living entity, he can't even make sound with just flick of finger if he has his hand broken. So there is a great difference. Though qualitatively they are same as Indians, but there is a great difference. So when Krishna is saying that we are same in the last verse, qualitatively we are same, definitely. But there is a great difference in quantity. As Prabhupada mentioned, there is no need of mentioning the quantity. Just like Prime Minister, there is no need to mention a difference. A knowledgeable person, an intelligent citizen understands by understanding his position and our position. So we continue. Now here Prabhupada starts the differences. The first point he mentions, although he and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one in quality, the living entity is prone to forget his spiritual identity, whereas the Supreme Personality never forgets. Maya Mukta Jiva Swatah Krishna Gan. Of course, because of Maya, living entity forgets his identity. Because of enjoying tendency, living entity wants to be separated from Krishna. That's how he is caught up. Nekataste Mayatara Japatiya Dhare. Because of the living entity's desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, he's forgetting his spiritual identity. So then the second difference he brings out here, that there is difference between Lipta and Alipta. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally Alipta, uncontaminated by external energy. The conditioned soul, however, being as a body, but in fact he is not at all the body, he is a spirit soul apart from that. Atmanam Trigunatmakam, he is thinking that I am this combination of these three modes of material nature. but in fact he is different from that. So because of this ignorance, we are all identifying with ourselves, with this body, but in fact we are not. So that is the second difference, that we are prone to forgetfulness, we are prone to contamination. Not only once we are forgetfulness comes, then the contamination starts more and more. So that's how Prabhupada is bringing out the second point. Third point is mentioning that now the difference between body and soul. Supreme Lord, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, there is no difference between the body and soul. He is completely soul. He has no material body. So just like example, in cakes, when we making some festivals, for festivals, abhisheks, or when there is a Janmashtami or Gaur Purnima, we have cakes, we make cakes, right? On cakes nowadays, they make beautiful designs like flowers or some figurine or whatever they make, and they decorate the cakes on the top. So that is made out of cream, right? You all know, those who are in kitchen, they know. It's all out of made of cream, though it looks like a flower, like a rose or anything, but it's all made of a cream. I am not tempting you, but I'm just trying to narrate. So Ramanavami is coming near. You can have cakes. Yeah. So when we make flour or anything figurine out of cream, it's entirely is cream. Is inside outside. There is nothing called inside outside. Though it looks like a flower, it looks like a figure. There is nothing called inside and outside a flower. Everything is cream only. Supreme Lord also same is everything is Sachidananda Vigraha. There is nothing called separate this cycle of birth and death. So these designations we are this cycle of birth and death. So these designations, we are all caught up in these designations. So that's what Prabhupada is bringing out the difference. And fifth point is mentioning that super soul is called Antaryami. He is extensive. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 13.3. Kshetragnam chap mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. O Sion of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower of in all the bodies. The super soul is present in everyone's body, whereas the individual soul is conditioned in one particular type of body. So this we can easily understand, that I am not at all, I don't understand myself, what to speak of others. I don't understand how my mind is functioning, sometimes, many times, what to speak of others' body, others' subtle body, etc. But Krishna knows everyone. Krishna has that kind of abhignata, abhigna swarat. So he is abhigna and swarat. He is indirectly conscious of everything in this world. So that's how he is entirely different and from the living entity. That's what Prabhupada is bringing out, the fifth difference. Krishna can expand in everything. Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastham govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. He is there in every atom also. Then continuing Prabhupada, the individual soul cannot understand what is taking place in another's body, but the super soul knows very well what is happening in all bodies. In other words, the super soul is always present in his full spiritual position, whereas the individual soul is prone to forget himself. Nor is the individual soul present everywhere. Generally, in his conditioned state, the individual soul cannot understand his relationship with the super soul. But sometimes, when he is free from all conditional existence, he can see the real difference between super soul and himself. Yeah. So, when we are liberated, we can understand the difference between super soul and the soul. That's what Prabhupada is bringing out the point. So, that then Prabhupada is going ahead with giving references from various scriptures, Shrutis and Smritis as well, quoting the Veda Vakyas, how they are different. He quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 28th chapter. And then he's quoting from Shruti, Yatagne Kshudra, Vispullinga, Vichiranti. We are like, the example is given that Krishna, Supreme Lord, is like a fire, and we are like sparks. There is an example is given in the Shrutis. And then Prabhupada is quoting text Bhagavad Gita also in chapter 9. Mastani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avastitah. He is, everyone is in Krishna, but nachaham teshu avastitah. He is completely different from everyone also at the same time. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Then he is quoting from Vishnu Puran. So he is giving so many references just to understand the difference between living entity and the Supreme Lord. So that's how Prabhupada ends with the purport. So we have seen the context and the text, how the context about Vaidarbhi and Avignata, where Supreme Lord is giving spiritual knowledge to eradicate the lamentation of the conditioned soul, like Vaidarbhi. And then we have seen the qualitative difference in 62, and 63 is quantitative difference. Prabhupada is bringing out 5 differences we have seen from the purport. And I will just mention about to glorify Prabhupada. I just read some Vyasapuja offering to Prabhupada, where how Prabhupada presenting the philosophy in such a beautiful manner, to such a crystal clear manner. We'll see the offering, and then we'll try to explain some things from connected to this one. So one sannyasi offered his Vyasapuja offering that he is mentioning. The open secret of your life is the open secret of your life is your unconditional love for Krishna. He mentioning about 5 points. First one is your unconditional love for Krishna, your total surrender to the will of your Guru Maharaj, your limitless faith in Krishna's holy names, your unwillingness to compromise Lord Chaitanya's essential teachings, and your inexhaustible compassion for all living beings. So this is the open secret of his life. That's how one para he glorified with these 5 qualities. So just as a reflection, when I am trying to offer pranam mantra to Prabhupada, just mapping these 5 qualities to pranam mantra verses. The 5 qualities, the first one, unconditional love, because Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale, he is very dear to Krishna. It reflects in unconditional love of Prabhupada to Krishna also. And the second point is mentioning that Namaste Saraswate Deve. When we mention the Saraswate Deve, he is very much devoted to his spiritual master. That quality is reflected in your total surrender to the will of your Guru Maharaj. Prabhupada is surrender to his will. Gauravani Pracharine, Gauravani, the holy names. So he's mentioning your limitless faith in Krishna's holy names. It's a Gauravani. Prudvityache Sarvatra Nagaradigram Sarvatra Pachara Hoibe Maranam. So Krishna's holy names, you have limitless faith in Krishna's holy names. That's how he's glorying in third quality. And then Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. This quality explains the uncompromising quality of Prabhupada. Your unwillingness to compromise Lord Chaitanya's essential teachings. So this quality, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, he was from day 1 onwards, he was never compromising at all. In fact, he was so heavy, even he used to take names and in terms of defeating the philosophies in classes, in public meetings, anywhere. His unwillingness to compromise Lord Chaitanya's essential teachings. Of course, we have less time, but we see many pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. When he heard that when Vrindavan Vasis are saying, you are not different from Krishna, then he was immediately closing, Vishnu, Vishnu. Jiva can never be equal to God. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very heavy on this point. Even one more pastime of where Swarup Damodar Goswami was hearing from one Brahmana the poetry about Lord Chaitanya. There also he brings out the point of difference between Supreme Lord and living entity. We will just see the 1 or 2 verses and then we will conclude. So this point I was mentioning that your unwillingness to compromise Lord Chaitanya's essential teaching. Prabhupada had this crystal clear philosophy, as we have seen in these purports also. And then 5th one is Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Paschatya Deshatarane, your inexhaustible compassion for all living beings. So he is always there, exhaustible, inexhaustible. We are exhausted after some time, right? In feast, we make, let us suppose we are making feast for 2000 people. We make a sweet, and then everything is not in our control, and the hearts of devotees are also not in our control. And the Supreme Lord can inspire many. They turn up, let us have 3000. Your sweet is exhausted. Right? Keep on serving. And sweet is not that you can make in 2-3 minutes or 1 hour. It takes at least 3-4 hours to make a very qualitative sweet. So we are exhausted. But Prabhupada had such a sweet and preparation, such a delicacy. He's inexhaustible compassion. He is always giving to everyone. Whoever comes to him, he is sharing the sweet of Krishna consciousness. So that is inexhaustible compassion for all living beings. That's the quality of Prabhupada. So that's the beautiful offering and qualities that Prabhupada had, this crystal clear philosophy as well as uh, inexhaustible sweetness to share with everyone. So we'll just read one verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita and then we'll conclude. Please repeat. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, just to taste the nectar at the end. Madhurena samapayet. Antelila 5th chapter 126. Please repeat. Kahan Purnananda Aishwarya Krishna Maheshwar. Sorry. Kahan Purnananda Aishwarya. Kahan Purnananda Aishwarya Krishna Maheshwar. Kahan Kshudra Jiva. Kahan Kshudra Jiva. Dukhi Maya Kinka. So this beautiful verse mentions about two qualities, difference between Krishna and Jiva. Kahan Purnananda Aishwarya Krishna Maheshwar. Purnananda Aishwarya Krishna. Krishna Maheshwar. Maya ka Adhish. Maya Adhish Krishna Maheshwar. Kahan Kshudra Jiva. Dukhi is a Kshudra and Dukhi. Mayara Kinkar. He is the Kinkar, is a servant of the Maya. So that is the difference between living entity and Supreme Lord. And we have many terminologies also to mention. He is Vibhu, we are Anu. He is Sampurna, we are Amsha. He is Parabrahman, we are Brahman. He is Paramatma, we are Atma. Yoko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kaman. Prabhupada always mentions that he is different because he is supplying everything to all living entities. That's how he is different. So I conclude here with this sweet nectar from Chaitanya Charitamrita and Prabhupada's beautiful qualities, that he has uncompromising qualities of essential teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and then his inexhaustible compassion, Paschatya Deshtaranya, following beings. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna. So we pause here. If time 9:10. Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We were seeing that for Krishna there is no difference between body and soul, but we have a difference between body and soul. And also in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20, Srila Prabhupada writes that demigods also are living entities like us, but they have got higher roles to serve Krishna. So, will that also mean that they also have a difference between their body and soul, or?
Yeah, their body is also different, but their composition will be different. The subtle elements are more prominent, as we see in higher planets. They don't have bodies like us. Their bodies are so fragrant. We hear from scriptures and that they don't have old age. They don't have diseases. They don't have bodies like us, like elements like us. But elements are same. All the bodies are made of all these 8 elements only, but the proportion is different. The subtle elements prominence is more in them, as per my understanding, as per my whatever I heard. Maybe Prabhuji can share, or Pankaj Go Prabhu. Sorry, Pri Gopesh Prabhu. Sorry. So is it right now? That's what I heard. But the elements are definitely, we hear that elements prominence is different. Just like what we have difference in species of life here, we have earth element is more prominent in our body. In species of water, what is the prominent? Water is the prominent. So similarly, the different elements will be different in different levels. In upper planets, it said the Brahma has the body of intelligence. I mean, we cannot even conceive what is meant by body of intelligence. So there is difference between bodies from lower to higher species, and they act accordingly. But there is a difference between the soul and difference between the body. That's why they give up the body and come back. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. So when they exhaust, they give up their body and again they take a different body. So that's what Krishna's reference, that when they exhaust punya and they come back again to this material world to enjoy in a different body. So that's how giving up means what? Soul giving up the body. So that's how there is. But the the bodies have a different prominence in the elements, especially as we go higher and higher. The sattva elements become more prominent. The middle planets are called, in the passion, the topmost planets are called sattva, and down planets are called mode of ignorance. They're predominated by these modes. And sattva means more of a knowledge, more of a subtle elements are more prominent. That's my understanding. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the beginning of the class, you just mentioned as a part of the introduction about that how this section began and the whole thing is going on, knowledge part. And you mentioned that how when Hiranyaksha died, Hiranyakashipu also spoke the whole knowledge. So it is, we see in Bhagavatam also, and it has been experience of in my personal life also, and with some devotees we interact with also, that that despite having the knowledge, still a person ends up doing the wrong thing. He has the knowledge, but and the way Hiranyakashipu spoke the philosophy after Hiranyaksha's death means I don't believe anybody can give that kind of class on the science of soul the way he gave. So, in the path of purification, like knowledge is emphasized a lot. Even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita about there is nothing more purifying in this world than knowledge.
Nahi
And Nahi Sadrasham Pavitramidam, and Jnana Agni, that completely burns off. But then we see that despite having knowledge, still that tendency to do the wrong or go in the wrong direction too. So what is the other factor which is also required along with knowledge, and how to access that? Because when the right time comes, the knowledge doesn't come to help. Although we have like that. So like in our personal life also, I feel like this. We have heard a lot, but the application part, we always lags behind. So can you please help us?
Typical application, very difficult to. Definitely, I try my level best. So knowledge, jnana and vigyan. So when we understand knowledge, when it comes to realization, when we actually come to realization or applying on the same knowledge what we heard, we keep on hearing every day, how it comes to realization, when it comes to realization, at least my understanding, it depends on case to case. It's a very subjective question, subjective, it's very subjective. But what in my experience I can share, how to bring it, though we fail. Every day we hear that we should chant attentively. In the morning only we hear 10 offenses. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. The next moment, the mind starts roaming around, going all around. Right? So, though we hear, definitely, we are endeavoring, as a sadhaka, we are endeavoring our level best to apply the knowledge, trying to. One statement I am trying to remember, to have lasting commitments, we have to regularly recommit. So that is the one formula that we try to, just like we hear every day offenses, and we try to act on particular things that we need to decide. That's my personal experience, that we need to take particular thing that we need to apply. Let us suppose chanting, example I am taking. So I take, okay, I am trying to improve my chanting. So what all I am going to improve my chanting? So I take 2-3 points and then try consciously endeavoring to improve on them. So by consciously acting on them, then they slowly, though we are diverting from the ideal, they will come back because we are recommitting again every day. So by that endeavor, Krishna will bestow mercy. Endeavor and mercy is always there. These two things only we have to do. We have to endeavor and Krishna has to show mercy. So by endeavoring, Krishna will definitely reveal the knowledge into practical realization. So the more we keep on endeavoring, at least conscious endeavor will bring more attentiveness to the japa. At least may not be realization of Krishna is non-different from the holy name, maybe a far end. But at least we are trying to be attentive by recommitting every day, consciously remembering that I took a vow to spiritual master that I will chant my 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra attentively as far as possible. And by consciously endeavoring that we are becoming attentive at least on a physical level. And the realization is always, as I heard, that is a gift of Krishna at one level. That Krishna is not different from holy name. Nayam Atma Parvachanena Labhyo. How much lectures we may hear, how much lectures we may give. I may be speaking here. The moment I get down the Vyasasan, I will be entirely caught in Maya. I may be saying soul and attentiveness and Krishna's holy name not different. But it's difficult. But we are endeavoring. That's our part. At least my experience. So the point is that we are trying to consciously trying to take one particular thing and trying to do it. So that because the mind always becomes elusive and very evasive when we speak about many things applying. But when we take small thing, it becomes very concrete. A small thing, a small quality or small item to improve in chanting or morning program or hearing or reading, or quality or dealing with others, or Vaishnava behavior, Vaishnava etiquettes, whatever. We should always come down to a small units instead of thinking big. That makes more mind and intelligence focused on particular thing. Otherwise, it's everything is in air. So that's how we consciously practice and try to apply ourselves. I just give example of chanting, but it applies to many others. And as we continually endeavoring and practicing by seeing our sincerity, Krishna may reveal one day the realization where we act on that platform. Though we may not be able to act on that platform now, but we definitely try to. And second point I want to mention is, though we are acting, so when we note down at the end of the day, see, I committed for this one, I failed in this. So that makes you more aware that okay, I tried, I failed. I tried and I failed. So that noting down makes you more conscious to apply more. It will makes you determine more the next day. At least even noting mentally or physically anyways, but that making note makes you more determined the next day to apply the same point. So these 2 points in my experience, I try to share to realization of what we know, what we are trying to read and hear or experience. Hope it making some sense. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Maybe you can meet personally. I'm here. Others can take breakfast. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.